we have one that I know plenty of the fans out there have been waiting on. A lot of people's favorite players, not only Beasty, but also Corvinus. We got two of the fan favorites.
This is an interesting matchup, especially when you consider that Sakra is going to be the opening map, which is the home for Chaos. Beasty facing off against Corvinus. Obviously, Beasty is one of the biggest favorites. Just before the tournament, he was probably considered one of the biggest favorites to potentially challenge Marine Lord for that title. Whereas Corvinus, he is looking to just, spoil that for Beasty here. I feel like if Corvinus wants to make this happen, this needs to be a crazy chaotic series though. But one of the things I always admire about Corvinus is his creativity. He's actually one of the most creative players out there. He's definitely one that can bring in some weird and interesting builds. Some work, some do not. But I feel like Corvinus, I would be shocked if he played anything standard today.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like this is one of those things. I've talked with plenty of players about it where, they're about to play someone and they're like, I do not match up well against Corvinus. I may be better than him or I may be higher rated than him or whatever. And they're like, I don't play well against him. I would rather not play against him. He just has that different style, that different gameplay that, I still remember back when Delhi was at their peak and he was all about Delhi. And then I remember when FFAs were first a big thing and he would like cockroach all around the map and somehow come out from being nothing and being this super strong, have this crazy army hiding behind trees. And so it's just one of those that he's always got something that will shock you and you got to be ready for it, which also makes you play off your game a little bit.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the interesting things to look at when you play against Corvinus. Just the sheer fact that he can do some crazy and unexpected things makes you rethink how you approach the game as well. Maybe he's going to play standard, but you're just a little cautious about what he's planning to do, so that might throw off your game plan as well. And right off the get-go, we could easily see some very chaotic Dark Age combat here, potentially. You have the Mongols for Sakra for Beasty, and Corvinus does have Jeanne d'Arc. And Jeanne d'Arc in the hands of Corvinus, that to me screams Tower Rush at the beginning. But that is hard to pull off against Mongols. But you never know. I could see Corvinus going very aggro here with Jeanne and Spearman push and trying to make this game messy in Dark Age.
Yes. It's one of those that if he does it, it might be a quick 5-minute game, and who knows which side that 5 minute might be on. As if it comes to fruition, those early game Dark Age kind of battles can just develop so fast. I think Beast even had one yesterday. It was close, and all of a sudden it was like, okay, and then he micros it, he wins it, and it's game over. It's like, all right, that's just kind of where these players can lean towards, especially with the Mongols. Dark Age shenanigans are going to come into play. Coming on to the next series, we don't have as many of what I would say the hybrids, the pure water maps. There might be a lot of water on the screen with Sakra, but not really a hybrid. And Kawasan is another one that is really the only fishing we're going to see in this series.
Yeah, this is more of a land-focused draft, which is something that's a little uncomfortable for Corvinus. Obviously, these standard land maps are a little bit more difficult to challenge Beasty on. But I'm very curious what he has cooked up, because he also has Byzantines available. That's a civilization he loves to use. In general, it's a powerful civilization, but it also allows you to have a lot of flexibility, and you can pull off a lot of weird shenanigans with it. He has Delhi as well, which was his go-to civilization for a long time. For the first year or so, Corvinus was basically a Delhi main in AoE 4. Does have the Malians, which is no pushover either. Does have the Chinese as well. So Corvinus does have a very good mix of traditional good civs and civs that he can utilize to great effect because of his playstyle.
Yeah, and we have seen some changes, some updates with Delhi specifically here. So maybe we'll see the first Delhi hybrid map that I'll get to watch here. If he pulls it out on Kawasan, or maybe kind of leaning into the normal Delhi play style. Beasty on the other hand, his civ picks, I mean, he is one of those players that every civ is kind of actually every civ is comfortable for him. I would say, but his OG HRE, which I would say it was his #1 civ for quite some time back when the old Red Bull was there, that was definitely his, I would say, his favorite one. But also now has Japan, has a Ubids, has Ottomans, and then everyone's, you know, I would say what was called the powerhouse, just the kind of all-around civ being the Rus as well.
Well, we just have 30 seconds left to go here. Beasty versus Corvinus coming up here. Sakra is going to be our opening game. And then we have Dry Arabia as regions on the side of Beasty, and Rocky River and Kawasan being the home maps of Corvinus. I think one of the most anticipated series of the round of 16s coming up here. A clear favorite to challenge Marine Lord before the tournament, facing off against a player that is no pushover and one that likes to make things messy. Let's see if he can challenge Beasty here in this set as we go into game number 1. What? This is 20 seconds into the game, folks.
It's
20 seconds into the game, and we already have Corvinus doing his own thing here, moving out to Jean d'Arc to take the boar.
You know, it is that boar. It gets you a nice center point on the map. It gets you some nice, good old XP for JD, and you got a great food resource for yourself as well. But wow, look at the base for Beasty. Very condensed over there next to the water.
Yeah, obviously with Mongols, you can play very condensed at the beginning because in many cases, especially on a map like Sakra, where resources are condensed, you can just place your town center close to a gold and a wood line at the same time. Barracks will be committed to by Beasty, and I really feel like Corvinus must have expected this. He was spotted immediately as he went out with Jean and the villagers for the boar, so he should know that Beasty is going to respond to it.
Yeah, he already has enough for an outpost if that's his plan, or more importantly, can just wait a little bit longer, drop a barracks of his own, and have JD for support once she gets that level up in play.
Yeah, this is actually an interesting thing because obviously with you going for the boar early, if you do this right, I think you should be getting the XP for Jean if you get the kill with her, right? So she should be pretty decent when it comes to the experience for that level 2. But I'm actually thinking that this is more about forcing a reaction here by Corvinus. He knows that Beast is going to invest into a barracks, and I would not be shocked if Corvinus just pulled back from the board. Basically, take it while you can, and then just try to beat Beast at the feudal age. Because by investing into these barracks, Beast is delaying his own feudal age. So if you're Corvinus, you might be trying to beat him to feudal. But as I'm saying, that looks like Corvinus queued up 2 spearmen, so he just wants to fight this head on.
Yeah, and he did build the barracks with JD, and like you said, JD got the extra XP from the boar. She's super tanky as well, so she, like we just saw, she can take those early trades. She can also, once she levels up, get some way, depending on which path it's taken, either one's going to be good, but get some extra abilities into play, heal up the spearmen, which fits an even fight. It's great, and these shivs can get pulled out from the villagers right now, so this is completely chill for Corvinus until the outpost starts to really come into play. I'm wondering what the XP is on JD. She gets pulled up again. Spear's starting to step forward. About half XP is what the update is.
Tower is coming up. It's 4 spears versus 5 here. Jean has to be pulled. Corvinus needs to stop this tower if he wants to stay on the board.
That one spearman gets quite low on both sides. One spear falls, a little bit of XP from JD. Villager starting to get dove upon. Tower cannot get canceled though, as I believe it'd give that XP over to JD. You can't afford to give any more XP to her. Numbers are somewhat even too. This is looking pretty good for Corvinus.
He's having an easier time reinforcing this battle. His barracks is right next to this position, but the micro is so good by Beasty. He's pulling back those low HP spearmen. He's slowly edging out a victory here, you feel.
He just took down another couple spears, a little bit more XP, but JD, she's out of position. She gets dove on, she's at 1 health. Oh, she's alive. Taken down by the Khan.
That's
JD
snipe.
falls. That snipe was unbelievable. Corvinus, he was taking some great trades. He got a lot of XP over to JD, but it just wasn't enough. Spear's getting thrown away now. Just gonna go for the outpost deny. Oh my gosh, he's gonna get it. He's gonna get it. Outpost gets denied.
Spearman count is still looking better for Beasty, though that micro has been just so much
She's
better.
Back. Shivs get pulled out. JD is back.
Oh no. She's surrounded though. She's surrounded.
How much XP does she need? Khan's still fighting.
Ridiculous.
Beasty pulls back 2 low health spearmen. A little bit more. Oh, she's dead.
Oh, she's gonna be gone.
It's over. All the villagers died too. All right. Well, we said 5 minutes, right? 5 minutes and.
I mean,
another villager though. Corvinus, he's gonna deny the tower again.
I did not expect anything else from Corvinus, like utter chaos and madness. The tower is still not going up. If the tower goes up, it's the end of the line for Corvinus, but Beasty is going to beat him to Feudal Age here. Losing Jean twice is just too much, I feel, and indeed, Corvinus does step out. Sub 8 minutes, a lot of chaos, kind of what we expected from this game.
I feel like Corvinus was really, really close to having it, but Beasty's micro, there was like one point where he pulled back like 3 spearmen at like, it felt like 0.1% health. And it was like, and Corvinus had a few units, chase those around, took a few extra shots, and just all the difference is early game in those dark ages, all that matters. And it was just over from there. JD gets lost, she gets built again, she gets lost, and there's no coming back.
I feel like you really cannot understate the significance of the Mongol discount, though, on those spears. Because at the end of the day, the fact that you can get 2 spearmen for the price of 1 for the Mongols, it's a game changer. And it looks like we're heading into Kawasan. No Chinese coming in here for Corvinus. Your most commonly picked meta civilization, it's not going to come out for Corvinus on Kawasan. Japanese is kind of the expected / predictable civilization pick. So Beasty just goes full meta here. Whereas for Corvinus, I do not remember when the last time was I saw Byzantines on Kawasan.
Yeah, I have no idea what to expect with the start there, but again, that's where we expected that exact thing from Corvinus before the series started. We're going to get a little update on the brackets for the time being before the game starts, as we've had some excitement so far, and it looks like we're going to continue on with that excitement as Wham 3D Cat. They're in a close one. It is a game decider. It is a game 5.
And hear me out. If Cat takes out Wham, then Wham and Vortex will be playing a decider match against each other. So one of those 2 players won't even make it to the second round of the lower bracket. And let's not forget, those players, they were there in the LAN 2 years ago. So it would be quite a shocker, but an absolutely insane lower bracket match to take a look at. And Cat, as much as we talked about CSO stepping up his game, same can be said of Cat as well. And, so far in this tournament, we're starting to see a lot of these rising stars stepping up their game and really, I guess, putting themselves on the map, saying, listen, we are done losing to these big names. We're done losing to the old guard of AoE 4. We are here as the new generation.
Yeah, some new names coming to the front. It's always exciting, always fun to end up seeing. But in front of us, it's not 2 rising stars. It's 2 people we've known here for a while. We got Beasty, we got Corvinus, and I'm still wondering what Corvinus has in store with this Byzantine on his game number 2 with the hybrid map. Saving, I guess, China for one of the normal OG maps, or maybe still kind of leaving Bali in his wheelhouse as well.
To be fair, I feel like if he doesn't use Chinese on Kawasan, it's going to be some sort of a weird tower rush / Borbeacon style build from Corvinus.
I mean, I'm all for it. If it's always fun, it's always exciting. We just saw how it worked out with that JD. I think the fans like it. the viewers like it. It's always a nice little change of pace from the typical, like, hey, I'm gonna wall up, I'm gonna macro boom, I'm gonna, I'm gonna get this game going, and then we'll wait until about 10, 15 minutes to see some development. We're all for the action at minute 1, minute 2.
Now the question becomes, how do you play Byzantines on this map if you're Corvinus? Are we going to see some weird, very weird things being done here?
I see in the chat someone said Cistern Rush, and I'm like, I remember like right when Byzantine came out, that was like the first initial thing, and then it was like, I feel like 2 days later, people were like, yeah, it doesn't actually work that well. We figured out how to deny it. Like if you scout,
I don't think that's an argument against Corvinus using it though.
And now that you say that, I'm like, okay, maybe we're gonna see the Cistern Rush, even though it sucks. It's like just try it. Who knows what it's just, I expected the Delhi. I expected the kind of surprise, see how Delhi is on the hybrid. Maybe haven't seen it too often, practiced against, played against, or whatnot, but saving that one as well.
Well, into game number 2 we go. Corvinus. He is definitely not the player with the 1-0 lead. Beasty was the one to deliver the first big punch here. He's up 1-0. He does have the Japanese under his command, a classic civilization here for Kawasan. And on the other side, a rather unconventional civilization pick here from Corvinus. He's in command of the Byzantines in red.
Yeah, and it is not any sort of Cistern rush, at least as of now. It's docked on either pawn. So this is where BC immediately is going to have that advantage. He's going to have those super, super cheap fishing boats. So he could either go into feudal age at the same time with way more fishing boats, or he could just cut fishing boat production a little bit early, make like 2 or 3, and then go up much, much earlier because he just doesn't have to have as many villagers on wood for constant fishing boat production.
We had a bit of a brief discussion about the potential for a Cistern Rush here for Corvinus. Remains to be seen if that's the way he's going to play this, but so far it's a standard opening. We do have a dock coming up. They do share pawns, something that we've seen in the previous series as well. So if nothing else changes, this is just going to be a race towards feudal age here between the two.
Yeah, I'm wondering if maybe Corvinus's game plan is using all that extra passive stone to just be dock emplacements, because the dock emplacements on this map specifically provide so much more coverage just because the pawns are so much smaller. So that's where you can see the bonuses right now that every building construction gives them some stone. So Corvinus used that initial stone for that first cistern, but will he end up dropping a second, or will he maybe save it on up for emplacements?
Yeah, that's actually a clever idea. I honestly didn't think about that. You could indeed go for early emplacements from the passive stone you're getting. It would still mean that he's playing this map a little bit more conventionally, at least conventionally compared to his relative standards. But so far, it's a very passive and peaceful Dark Age. He hasn't started taking his berries yet, so it doesn't really have a lot of olive oil to work with. It remains to be seen how much he's going to lean on to the mercenary path in early game.
Yeah, we saw Beasty just move out to the gold, Corvinus moving out to the gold. So both players, they're thinking feudal age, but like we said, Beasty, he's a good step ahead. He's got extra gold in the bank already. He's got a good extra 100 food in the bank already, and should be dropping that landmark here in the next couple seconds. So now we're going to see some Shinobi most likely popping on out, as that has been the meta game plan here. And there it is. The Coca Township is on its way. And wow, it's not 6 villagers. It's a full 8 villagers building that. He wants to get up to feudal very, very quickly.
Yeah, let's not forget, the only way that you can get those emplacements on the dock is if you actually can finish them before the Shinobi arrive. So it makes a lot of sense for Beast to rush this landmark. The sooner he gets the feudal age, the sooner he can start denying those docks.
Yeah, and Corvinus, you don't want to. Okay, there we go. But we totally threw my stone idea down the drain with the emplacements, as He went ahead and built that second
Okay.
cistern. He's going with the hippodrome, not even going with the winery. So he wants to go with some hippos, wants to get some horsemen out on the map, wants to get some aggression there with some that kind of stables immediately being finished. And the second cistern is online now. So he does have a little bit of a boost on his eco.
Yeah, the hippodrome build is an interesting one. It makes quite some sense, especially if you're not taking the berries. Doesn't really help you if you place the Grand Winery close to the berries and then just ignore the berries. But I'm curious how much he's going to lean into the cavalry play, because the hippodrome play with the cavalry can be of high upside, being able to snipe villagers early on. And
Yeah.
if you can harass and snipe villagers with those cavalry, it disrupts the water build of your opponent as well, because they might not be able to consistently afford ships.
Yeah, not only consistently afford ships, if you're able to kind of take out anything going towards those docks, no villagers able to reheal the docks, you can kind of consistently turn back and forth and put some extra torches on the docks too if their military boats step up. And wow, that villager got quite low, but the scout taking some damage for it, able to get out of that range in time. And Beasty, the first one being aggressive. Don't Byzantines have the awful...
Oh, it's a Dromon, but it does get stopped 1 second on the clock. Talk about small margins.
Aren't the Dromons the ones with like the super short flame range?
I am going to be very honest with you. This is the first time for me ever seeing a Dromon.
They're awful.
Well, assuming this ever comes out. Because right now, Corvinus can't get a ship out. It's 1 second remaining on the timer, but 2 Shinobis is able to disrupt this.
Oh, it's out!
Okay.
It's super short range, so like whenever I've seen these come out in high elos, they never close the gap. They just take damage consistently from Springolds, and then it's just like, all right, you can't return damage really.
But on a pawn this small, it's a very different story. Problem is that I think the demo should work very well against it, right?
Oh, healing up! Oh! The galley, though. The fishing boats need to watch out.
This is a rather interesting naval fight that we're having over here. Second ship is not coming out here. Dromon is going to burn down the Shinobi, though. Dock is on fire. Fishing ships will be sacrificed to keep this Dromon alive.
And... oh, it does end up taking out the arrow ship. Second dock's almost up. 2 villagers are there. More docks being dropped by Beasty, it looked like. Demo ship sitting on the dock, just waiting for the next ship to pop on out. And Corvinus, what's he doing with that 1 horseman he's got? Anything?
Nope. I love the touch here from Beasty not committing the demo against a very heavily damaged Dromon. He instead committed it against the dock and finished off the dock, but now this demo does connect. It's not enough. Full HP ships don't get sunk immediately by demos. Nice little micro once again here for Beasty.
Yep. And Beasty making sure there's no dock on the opposite side. Springald ship stepping up, trying to get that villager kill. And it definitely will end up getting one, but the dock finishes up. Another galley pops out, but there's a Springald ship sitting right there. Corvinus is just consistently losing military ships, and now he's losing villagers at home. This might be a quick one we have on our hands here, too.
Yeah, this is looking grim for him. He's losing the pawn. The Shinobi are just absolutely shredding his eco. He lost 6 eco in this game, villagers and fishing boats combined. He cannot produce more ships, so the Shinobi shutting it down. And you just see why the Japanese is such a powerhouse civilization on this map. The ability to shut down these docks, even if it's temporary, it's a massive boost to naval combat.
Yeah, and it's about to get so much worse as Beasty. He's dropping a dock on that eastern pond. He's about to just get a full fishing boom there. He's got an extra dock that he's just finishing on this original pond. So not only does he have 1 pond secured, he's about to have both ponds secured with 40 wood fishing boats. 45?
It's just
40?
so grim. And you do have the horsemen coming out, but the numbers are just far from impressive. And this villager, or these villagers building this dock will be found immediately. I'm not even sure if the dock is going to go up.
Nope, I don't think so. As Shinobi is not. Oh, there is a second horseman on the way though, so Doc should be able to finish with the horseman support here. Shinobi should fall.
Ooh, nice
Oh,
micro by
just
Corvinus.
barely. So Corvinus able to get that Doc up, but 3 more Shinobi are ready and roaming the other side.
Yeah, this dock gets shut down immediately. Sure enough, it's completed, but it's not going to produce anything.
I think one of the 2 villagers got killed on over there. A couple more Shinobi are on the way. I'm not sure if this is a fight they actually want to take, though. Yeah,
Yeah.
we see Triumph utilized and just takes down the rest of those couple Shinobi.
Yeah, credit where it's due. Corvinus is building up the number of horsemen he has, and Beasty only has an eco lead of 6. So there is a world where Corvinus, if he uses these horsemen well, he could potentially buy himself some time to recover.
Beasty able to deny that 3rd dock, but Corvinus was able to get the initial 2 docks on that northern pond, so it won't just be an easy fish boom there. However, Beasty has full secured the original one. And now I think is when the numbers start getting out of hand. Yeah, the double Dromon.
Dromon on the way.
They're so
One
bad.
pops out.
They're
They
so
are
bad.
ridiculously big.
They just have such short range.
Yeah, but there is no demo here for Beasty, and this is a small pond. Like, as crazy as it sounds like, they could easily torch down this dock. As I'm saying, the first demo pops out.
A demo and a dock emplacement too.
Oh, it stays alive for the time being, but there is nothing that can repair it right now.
Dock emplacement still working hard. I think another demo is about to pop out, and both of those Dromons are about to fall.
Oh, that is once again a masterclass of a micro by Beasty, finishing them all off. There's a galley, but it's going to be too late to the party, and the horseman got taken out as well. Ah, that's complete disaster here for Corvinus. I really feel like maybe he could have tried pushing Beasty's base with the horseman instead, because these horsemen are just being absolutely slaughtered right now.
Yeah, I mean, it just feels like there's been a lot of wasted resources over on Corvinus' side. It's not necessarily Corvinus' fault. It's also just with how well BC has been able to play. We do see a good amount of olive oil that has been stored up, but not utilized at all yet. So, wondering if we're gonna see a Merc house dropped and see some mercenaries here soon, or if we're even gonna get that far.
Yeah, one thing to highlight here is that the destroyed value is neck and neck here, and we don't have mercenaries, so that number is reasonably accurate. So despite the fact that Beasty has been taking some really good fights and Corvinus has been losing Dromon after Dromon, the destroyed value is still pretty close, although it's starting to swing in the favor of Beasty now that the Horsemen are getting pushed back, the Dromon is getting pushed back, and there's just nowhere to go on this spawn for Corvinus.
Yeah, and now that there's Spearmen out, once the Horsemen get pushed back, the Spearmen can just turn around and help burn down those docks, as just a second ago, there weren't any military ships in that pond, and there won't be for too much longer, as those docks are in range of the dock with the emplacement from Beasties. So it's just, as they come out, they immediately started getting fired upon.
Yeah, now that Spearmen are out, it's tough for Corvinus. Before that, he could have tried harassing Beasty's eco because Beasty only had Shinobi, but now you have Spearmen out there and Corvinus just taps out. He tried something moderately cheesy, but I feel like this game was just a great representation of how good Beasty's micro is and how much he can get out of these scenarios. These tight engagements where it's millisecond micro, small differences making the mile, those fell into his hands every single time in this game.
Yeah, I mean, and the graphs even tell you that. It's like one thing here, one thing there, oh, a little blip, oh, and then all of a sudden it's just this constant slow buildup that just, the spread gets further and further and further, and then all of a sudden by the end it looks like Beasty is a mile ahead, and that's because he is.
And that takes us into a 2-0 setup. We will be heading into Dry Arabia, so the most classic map of all so far. And Corvinus, he's tried cheesy stuff. Something very cheesy in Sakra, something moderately cheesy in Kawasan. maybe this is the time where we're just going to see him channel that good old beloved civilization that he mained for so long. Delhi in his hands on a standard map. Maybe he's just going to try something else. Maybe he's not going to risk anything anymore, and he's just going to try to play his best civilization against a civilization that's not necessarily a very common pick on a map like Dry Arabia.
Yeah, I feel like back in the old days, this is a matchup that was very HRE favored, but now with the Ghazi Raider updates, with some changes, it's kind of one of those that it's kind of even footing, depends how you're playing the game. But we'll get back into game number 3, the game decider, in just a second. Going to give y'all a little update on the brackets here now, seeing if any of those tight games concluded. And oh my, Baltoon said, I want to be crowned King of the North, and takes down Demu 3-1 in the Red Bull qualifiers. So that's another big upset we kind of have on our hands.
Oh my, a lot of big names will be in the risk of being eliminated in the first round here. Demu falling down to the lower bracket. Indeed, lower bracket looks as such. Valdemar versus Zertan, Lash Killjari. Vortex is waiting his opponent. Cat versus Puppy Paw. No, Cat versus Vam. My bad. Cat versus Vam. 2-2. The loser of that series will play Vortex in there. And then Demu is going to be awaiting the player that gets defeated in this series. Could be Corvinus based on the current standing of this series.
Yeah, I mean, what a wild set of games that we have had today. And not only the ones we've cast, but the ones we haven't gotten to see. I mean, just upset after upset, surprising game, surprising series. A lot of ones that people would have said maybe 3-0 on the other side ends up not happening at all. But enough about the brackets. We'll get another update there in a little bit. Maybe after this game, we'll see another shock. But we are about to come into game number 3 between Beasty and Corvinus, the potential game decider.
And in we go. This is game number 3. Match point right now for Beasty in the round of 16s on the winner's bracket of Red Bull Wololo El Reinado, the online stage. On the right is Beasty with the color yellow as the HRE, and to the left, Corvinus using his much beloved civilization, the Delhi Sultanate, with the color red.
Seeing how this game is going to progress, what these players have in store. Beasty getting that back gold, always nice to see when you're the HRE. Has a nice wood line that he's able to kind of close off and wall, not allow for that constant, backside roaming from Ghazi Raiders. Makes it to where they're going to be much more concise, condensed on where they can raid and go to. But for now, we're just kind of seeing the sheep haul, seeing the early game builds, and seeing when feudal age is going to start.
Yeah, so far nothing out of the ordinary over here. So let's take a look at the base layouts here for a brief moment, because one thing I'm noticing is that Corvinus does have a very well defendable base. Berries are on the front, which is not nice, but those forests spawning all around his base give him a very straightforward way of walling off his base. And that could be an interesting thing to consider, because Beasty does have the HRE. If he plays a horseman-based approach or a semi-fast cast onto knights, those walls could be immensely valuable for Corvinus.
Yeah, I mean, this is one where, as much as I hate walls, it's when I'm casting, I always am like, oh, drop a wall there. You immediately should drop a wall there. I'm like, oh, they needed a wall. And then when I'm playing, it's like, I'm not dropping walls. Walls, no, not a chance.
Walls can save lives.
It is definitely smarter to do than not, but sometimes it makes you not feel as strong.
Tower of Victory coming in here, kind of the go-to landmark at this point for the Delhi Sultanate. Beasty going up with the Aachen Chapel, no surprise there, but Beasty was able to get the majority of the sheep on the map, so that's a pretty decent Dark Age for him.
Yeah, I mean the sheep when you're HRE, I will say sheep not as effective as what they once were, but sheep are still oh my, and he's still gathering more sheep. It's so crucial because it allows HRE just to stay safe, inspired under that chapel for so long. It's actually one of those things that can make you decide how you want to build. Am I going to go fully, naked fast castle? Am I going to go just a few units? Like, when am I going to have to move out to that secondary resource and potentially get pressured? Because that is when you are at your most vulnerable point as the HRE.
I love this Archon Chapel, by the way. This is a 10 out of 10 landmark. This is something that we often do with Drongo when we're casting together, raiding Archon Chapels. And, I mean, this is as good as it gets. Has the food, has the wood, has the gold. You cannot ask for more than that.
Yeah, and more importantly, it's the positioning of where it is. It's behind his base, easily walled off, very, very safe. It's one thing getting a lot of the resources. It's another of the positioning of where it's at, because this thing, it can't get raided at all. Age up comes through for Beasty. Very, very quick timing. Corvinus, Tower of Victory, about to finish on up. And we've seen a lot of HRE players change from the old fast castle builds and more play this feudal age infantry build because of marching drills.
Yeah, marching drills is obviously one of the most crucial upgrades for HRE, and that's what makes them an infantry powerhouse civilization. Look at the early wars, though, from Beasty. Like, those are small details, but even just dropping that little palisade to the right side means that you cannot be surprised from that angle, and it means that you have one less thing to pay attention to.
Yeah, this was the immediate wall I was talking about. Wall in that short wood line behind. It makes it to where Ghazi Raiders can't circle around the backside of his base. They all have to condense over to the left side. And if you look at how Beasty's layout is, they're going to have to run right by that wood line or run around the front wood line, which just makes them run into vision or take a lot more time. So it's just super, super awkward for Corvinus to actually get any damage done onto the other side. Both players dropping stables, though, early on. It doesn't surprise me because high elo players, they love their mobility. Good scouting from Corvinus. Good outpost from Beasty. So even harder to get into that base is now the walls on one side, the outposts and TCs on the other. And Beasty has, 12 to 15 sheep? Good luck.
Yeah, that's gonna be tough to harass. Corvin is just going heavy on the upgrades. Horseman now popping out for Beasty. And it looks like he's going to prioritize that northern side of the map where 2 out of the 3 sacred sites are located. He's also pushing away the scout of Corvinus here. So obviously scouts having that higher movement speed compared to horsemen. No, the other way around. Horsemen being a little faster than scouts means that they can slowly chase them down. And that means that if you're not cautious, you could actually even lose your scout to enemy horsemen.
Yep, Beasty, though, immediately reacts once that Ghazi Raider arrives, circles on back around. You can see all the text coming through for Corvinus up at the top side, and textiles actually is going to be one of those getting early on. So that is why you see the difference in the villager count up at the top. It is because Corvinus already has textiles, so any sort of early raiding going to be a little bit more difficult for Beasty.
Spearman now being the second unit of addition here for Corvinus. Of course, one thing to look out here is that Ghazi Raiders versus Horsemen is always an interesting matchup, because Ghazi Raiders are a little pricier. They are great against, well, they're okay against heavily armored units, but against Horsemen, the cost efficiency is probably on the side of the Horsemen.
Yeah, Ghazi Raiders they're just kind of tanky. They're just a different. They are horsemen, but they're like a better horseman, but cost a little bit more. And that's where Corvinus has spears to jump on into play to help those on out. But Beasty, we saw double barracks being dropped, and another thing that I want to focus in on is I love that he's already dropping some early farms. Even though he has a ton of sheep, he doesn't want to fully rely on that. He wants to make sure he doesn't deplete the safe food as fast. So he's gonna have some long-term safe food under his good old chapel. But Corvinus, he's grabbing the first initial key to Delhi. Sacred sites being secured on up. He's got spears there, ready and waiting for any of the horsemen of Beasties that are going to try to deny it. And then he also might even drop some walls down here in the near future.
I would love to see walls, especially because you don't want to run across the map with your scholars non-stop. If you don't have walls, Beasty will decap the sacred site. You have to send a new scholar out, and you don't have a lot of scholars as the horsemen now charge in. Corvinus a little slow to react. One villager does get pinned, make that 2. It looks like one of them will be able to get out alive, but not the second. Archer's also getting caught off guard there, but yeah, just looking at the scholar count, if Beasty can snipe those scholars, that could be disastrous for Corvinus.
Snipes out a spearman, so gets a couple military picks as well as that villager. So all of this starting to add on up, but double sacred site secured. More farms being dropped. Man, this is already a real pretty economy, and oh my, it's gonna be just mass men-at-arms.
Interesting choice against Ghazi Raiders, because Ghazi Raiders do get a bonus against heavily armored units. But at the same time, the production is not really there for Corvinus just yet. He went 1-1-1. 1 racks, 1 stable, 1 range. Archers won't do much. Oh, once again, horsemen do dive in, and Corvinus is willing to fight this with the villagers.
Yeah, he says textiles on my villagers is good enough, but Beasty says, I'm fine with losing these horsemen. I'm already making a composition switch, and I'm just going to get as much damage as I possibly can. Looks like at least 3 villagers went down on that one, maybe 4, as I know we picked up one earlier on. So Corvinus is down a significant amount of villagers, and he's down that 40% eco bonus that the chapel provides.
He does have 2 sacred sites, potentially 3 though, and I think that's the reason why he was willing to take that fight. He could have ran for the TC. I think he wanted to kill the horsemen so he can capture the sacred sites without much of a harassment from Beasty. But he's going heavy on archers, which will be next to useless against all these men-at-arms. And I just want to go back to the point that you made about the farms early on. Beasty was investing into these where you didn't have much of a fighting happening. And I always love to see that. Early mid-feudal age, if there is not much going on, you don't have to invest that much into your army. Your opponent is playing a little bit more passively. Go for farms, because they set you up with food eco for the next 10-15 minutes, easily.
Yeah, and this is a point where he can split off men-at-arms, go into these couple different berry bushes that Corvinus is bound to move out to, and make it very difficult for Corvinus to continually sustain his production. Meanwhile, Beasty, he's always going to be producing if he wants to. The only time he's not is when he wants to go up to castle. Good pick up on the reinforcing units by Corvinus. This is going to be his way back into this game. It's going to be just like when you're playing against English, when they used to do the feudal all-in, reinforcing longbows. Just cut off the rally point, pick off 1 or 2 here and there, continue to do so, utilize your mobility until you have a big enough mass to collapse on the group that's split off forward.
Yeah, this is exactly what you need to do with the Ghazi Raiders. You have that extra mobility, so you're looking to intercept these reinforcements. You can't really fight these men-at-arms head-on. These men-at-arms are pricey. If you can catch them 1 by 1 or in small groups, these can be very efficient cleanups. Corvinus is just running circles around his opponent right now, trying to maintain control over the sacred sites while the spearmen are coming in. Even with the spearmen and the archers, this army feels a little lackluster for Corvinus to deal with that many men-at-arms.
Yeah, I don't think this is still a good fight, but he did split off, and it's where he took a fight against 3 of them, not the whole, and so he was, he's just fighting them while they're thinned on out, and now Beasty actually takes that full group and just decides to run away, and as it gets thinner and thinner, this is a fight that Corvinus wants to take, but it's all a plan. Beasty's pulling the army away to then send another group. Just what I was saying earlier, hit the berries and stop the production at home.
And Beasty's aggroing Bror. I was actually wondering if he was going to do that. And now he takes the fight in the corner, so the boar is aggroed on Corvinus' troops. It's also light troops that Corvinus has, so the boar does a lot better against them. Nice little position shuffle here by Corvinus, so the boar actually attacks Beasty now.
Yeah, so fight being taken by Corvinus again, though. Beasty's unit's very, very tanky. He's kind of trying to reposition it. At home, though, there is another huge grouping. Beasty's up at 28 total men-at-arms. While this group does get cleaned up, which is really good for Corvinus, there's still a lot more. So this is a smaller one, and it didn't even go as well as what I was expecting. If you're thinking about a pure numbers game, that was still an efficient fight for Beasty.
Yeah, Beasty still has so many men-at-arms. And just look at his food eco. All those farms working under the Aachen Chapel is massive. And Corvinus does have his villagers pinched, and that might be the final nail in his coffin.
Another 5, 6 villagers go down, and if you look directly to the south, there's another huge group of villagers on the deer. They're gonna have to run. We all know how these pro players are when it comes to deer. You can see them moving around. You can see when they start getting gathered on. Corvinus knew it was over. Great, solid 3-0 series by Beasty, able to handle all of the shenanigans in the first 2 games from Corvinus.
I would say that most people would have predicted a similar outcome at the beginning of this series. Corvinus tried to play a little off meta, but it just didn't really work out. He definitely gave us some memorable moments, though, like the Jean d'Arc gaming game #1, the Droman idea on Kawasan. So, I mean, you really have to credit for Corvinus when it comes to coming out with a game plan against Beasty that's not really traditional. He was prepared for this, and we kind of saw what we expected from this series. Corvinus often has these unique and weird strategies. Sometimes they work, sometimes they don't. This time around, Beasty was the one gaining the upper hand, and he's the one securing this series 3-0.